Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. Today, we dive deep into a chilling case that shook the peaceful town of Deltona, Florida. In February 2018, this quiet community on the eastern Atlantic coast was rocked by the brutal murder of a young man named Patrick de la Cerda. Patrick, only 25 years old at the time of his death, was found lifeless in his own home. The severity of his injuries hinted that the killer held a deep personal grudge against him. The Patrick de la Cerda case is a disturbing tale of what appeared to be an almost perfect, meticulously planned crime, one that could have easily remained unsolved. Although a suspect was named almost immediately, no direct evidence surfaced initially to substantiate his guilt. Investigator Chad Weaver, who led the case, knew from the start that this was a real-life puzzle worthy of a screenplay adaptation. But who was Patrick de la Cerda? Let's take a moment to understand the man whose life was tragically cut short. Born in June 1992 in Miami, Florida, Patrick grew up in a vibrant, bustling metropolitan area. His father, Max de la Cerda, hailed from Spain, and his mother, Patricia Ronza, was a native of France who moved to the United States in the 80s. They soon married and welcomed their son into what was a loving, happy family environment. Patrick was raised surrounded by love, care, and mutual respect. He was an intelligent and sociable young man who excelled in his studies and had a knack for making friends effortlessly. He was the kind of person who could light up a room and draw people to him with his charisma and friendly demeanor. From a young age, he was very close to his parents, who spared no effort or expense to ensure he received a good education and grew into a commendable man. His father, a lifelong construction worker and an excellent specialist in his field, inspired Patrick to follow in his footsteps. After graduating high school, Patrick enrolled in the construction faculty at university, aiming to continue his father's legacy. During his university years, a significant family change occurred. After nearly a quarter-century together, his parents decided to divorce. It was an amicable separation, free of any scandal or contentious property disputes. Patricia moved to Deltona, a quieter part of the state, and remarried, while Patrick chose to stay in Miami with his father. The two worked together as respected professionals in the construction industry. Despite the divorce, the family remained close. They kept in touch regularly, sharing life updates, joys, and challenges. Patrick frequently visited his mother in Deltona, always keeping her in the loop about his life's happenings. In his personal life, Patrick, with his charming French-Spanish heritage, was quite popular among his peers, particularly with women. However, he never sought fleeting relationships. Influenced by his parents' long marriage, he dreamed of finding a deep, lasting love and building a family like the one he grew up in. This quest for love led him to the internet, where on the advice of a friend, he created a profile on a popular dating site. Skeptical about finding true love online, Patrick didn't have high hopes as he scrolled through profiles one evening in June 2017. That was until he stumbled upon a profile that caught his eye, a striking brunette named Jessica Devon. Her big, expressive eyes and bright, engaging smile enchanted him instantly. Compelled, he sent her a message. Jessica responded, and what started as a simple exchange of messages soon blossomed into something more. Born in 1988 in Orlando, Jessica had studied banking at a local university and was working at a bank branch in her hometown. As their conversations grew deeper and more frequent, Patrick found himself increasingly drawn to her. This was the beginning of a new chapter in Patrick's life, one filled with promise and new love. Little did he know, the events that were to unfold would turn his story into one marked by tragedy and mystery. Jessica was immediately drawn to Patrick as well. The connection between them was palpable right from their initial conversations on the dating site. Within days of active messaging, they decided to take the next step by exchanging phone numbers. This marked the beginning of nightly phone calls that often stretched into the early hours. They shared everything with each other, from mundane daily details to their hopes and dreams, quickly establishing a foundation of mutual sympathy and trust. Feeling ready to meet in person after weeks of intense virtual connection, they chose a location halfway between their homes for their first date. It was a deliberate decision to mitigate the distance that physically separated them. From the moment they met, Patrick knew that Jessica was the woman he had been searching for all his life. She also felt a strong connection, although she was initially a bit hesitant about their age difference, with her being 4 years his senior. On his way home after their first meeting, Patrick couldn't contain his excitement. He called his mother, Patricia, to tell her about Jessica, declaring that she was the one he wanted to marry and build a future with. Patricia could hear the joy in her son's voice, understood his seriousness, and was overjoyed for him. The couple maintained their long-distance relationship for several months, with their weekends becoming the cherished moments of reunion. Typically, they would meet at a rented hotel in some quaint, secluded location where they could focus solely on each other. But the goodbye on Sunday nights was always hard, as they parted ways to return to their respective weekday routines and jobs. In December 2017, Patrick made a significant decision to move to Deltona, closer to where his mother lived and, more importantly, closer to Jessica. He purchased a house in a quiet neighborhood and began making renovations to transform it into a cozy home for them. While Jessica was not yet able to leave her job and move in immediately, they planned a housewarming party for the early spring of the following year. As they welcomed the new year together, Patrick planned a special surprise for Jessica. He organized a fireworks display in the backyard of his new home. Amidst the dazzling lights, he took a momentous step. Kneeling down and presenting a ring, he asked Jessica to marry him. Overwhelmed with happiness, Jessica agreed without hesitation. Patrick admitted that finding the perfect engagement ring had been a challenge. None of the rings he saw in stores met his expectations. They lacked the beauty and refinement he felt the occasion deserved. So, he settled for the best available option to propose before the new year, but also custom-ordered an exclusive ring, designing it himself to add a personal touch to their engagement. 2 months after their engagement, as they were busy with wedding plans and the forthcoming housewarming, tragedy struck. They envisioned a grand wedding either on the beaches of Miami or perhaps even in France, reflecting Patrick's heritage. On February 27, 2018, a day that started like any other, Max de la Cerda, Patrick's father, received a call that turned their world upside down. A courier, unable to get a response from Patrick at his address, contacted Max, listed as an alternative contact. The courier reported that although the delivery was made, Patrick wasn't answering the door or his phone. This was unusual for Patrick, known for his punctuality and responsiveness. Alarmed, yet tied up at work, Max could not leave immediately to check on his son. Instead, he reached out to Jessica, asking her to check on Patrick, fearing something was amiss. Little did they know, this day would unravel a sequence of events that would lead to heartbreak and a mystery enveloping the whole family. Jessica had been trying to reach Patrick since early in the morning, but there was no response to her messages and calls. When she shared her concerns with Patrick's father, Max, he sensed that something was seriously wrong. Something must have happened to Patrick, he said with a tone of urgency. Without wasting any more time, Jessica dropped everything and rushed to Patrick's house as fast as she could. Upon arrival, she noticed Patrick's car parked in the driveway, indicating he hadn't left the house. With her own key, Jessica entered the yard and called out to Patrick several times, but there was no reply. Her heart pounding, she carefully opened the front door. The sight that met her eyes was horrifying. Patrick was lying near the entrance, unmoving in a pool of his own blood. Jessica, in a state of shock, immediately dialed for emergency services. But when the paramedics arrived, there was nothing they could do. Patrick was already gone. By the time the police arrived, a distraught Jessica was sobbing uncontrollably in the backyard, the very place where Patrick had proposed to her just 2 months earlier. When one of the officers approached her to gather some initial information, all she could say through her tears was that she knew who had done this. She believed that her ex-boyfriend, a rich and powerful man, had destroyed her life and massacred her lover. To understand who would want to harm Patrick, a seemingly well-liked individual with no apparent enemies, we need to look back to when Patrick and Jessica first met. At that time, Jessica was in a relationship with Gregory Bender, a wealthy businessman who owned his own investment fund. They had met during her student years. Gregory was 20 years older than her, and he swept her off her feet with lavish gifts and trips to exotic resorts. Initially, Jessica thought she had found the love of her life. However, as time passed, she started noticing unsettling behaviors. Gregory was overly controlling, monitoring her movements and who she spoke with. If Jessica attracted any male attention, Gregory quickly chased the admirers away with threats. Despite being together for nearly 8 years, Gregory never introduced Jessica to his family or friends. They would meet or vacation only on his terms, and he rarely invited her to his house, claiming his busy schedule as the reason. Jessica longed for a normal family life, including children, but Gregory always postponed these discussions. When she tried to end the relationship, he proposed with a ring in a desperate bid to keep her. She accepted, yet nothing changed. They continued to live separately and met only when Gregory decided. The turning point came when Gregory was hospitalized following a car accident. Jessica visited his house to gather some of his belongings and encountered a woman she had never seen before. When Jessica revealed that she was engaged to Gregory, showing her ring, the woman laughed and showed her own ring, declaring herself as Gregory's legal wife. This revelation shattered Jessica, and she decided to leave Gregory for good. Despite the breakup, Gregory became obsessive, refusing to let Jessica go. He begged her to return, promising to divorce his wife, but nothing changed. Exhausted by his false promises, Jessica decided to move on and created a profile on a dating site, where she met Patrick. Determined to start anew, she informed Gregory of her decision to break up definitively. However, Gregory couldn't accept her decision. At first, he tried to persuade her to return, then resorted to threats and harassment. When he realized these tactics were futile, he hired professionals to hack into Jessica's accounts to find out who she was dating. After discovering Patrick's identity, Gregory began sending him threatening messages, demanding that he break up with Jessica and leave her to him. Patrick remained unfazed by the threats, believing they would not escalate beyond intimidating words. However, Jessica was genuinely frightened, aware of her ex-boyfriend Gregory's extensive resources and connections, not to mention his large collection of firearms. Fearing for their safety, Jessica suggested they might break up to avoid any harm, but Patrick steadfastly refused. Instead, they decided to take action by going to the police and providing evidence of Gregory's stalking and threats. With the evidence they presented, the police were able to secure a restraining order against Gregory, prohibiting him from approaching or contacting them by any means. Additionally, he was ordered to surrender all firearms in his possession. For a time, this measure seemed to work, and life returned to a semblance of normalcy for the couple. However, Jessica remained uneasy and convinced Patrick of the need to install CCTV cameras around their home. She feared that Gregory might ignore the restraining order and pose a direct threat to their safety. Let's return to the tragic day of February 27, 2018. During the initial crime scene investigation, criminalists quickly dismissed the possibility of a robbery as the motive. The nature of the attack was intensely personal. Patrick's body bore the evidence. For gunshot wounds, one in the thigh, one in the chest, and 2 in the head, along with injuries that suggested he had fallen from a ladder. The positioning of his body, lying between the front door and the stairs leading to the second floor, led investigators to theorize that the killer had waited inside the house. It appeared that as Patrick entered and began to ascend the stairs, the assailant emerged, shooting him first in the thigh. As Patrick fell down the stairs, the attacker followed, shooting him in the chest and finally executing him with 2 shots to the head. The murder weapon was not found at the scene, and it was noted to be a rare model of pistol, not easily obtainable. Shell casings were recovered, 1 upstairs and 2 more downstairs. Curiously, a 4th casing was missing, presumed taken by the killer, possibly as a twisted trophy. Despite Jessica's assertion that she knew who was responsible, the police initially considered other suspects, including a neighbor of Patrick's who had had a severe conflict with him months earlier. This neighbor, a combat veteran with a mental disorder, had previously mistaken Patrick for an intruder and had a history of aggressive behavior. Though detained and interrogated, he had a solid alibi confirmed by multiple witnesses. With robbery ruled out, nothing was stolen and valuables were untouched. The only missing items were the hard disks from the surveillance system, eliminating any chance to review footage of who entered or exited the house on the day of the murder. No fingerprints, shoe prints, or DNA were found. It was a meticulously planned crime. Although the investigation strongly suspected Gregory's involvement, concrete evidence was lacking. The police strategized by asking Jessica to confront Gregory over the phone, hoping he might slip up. During the call, she tearfully accused him of the murder, but Gregory, likely sensing the trap, maintained his innocence and expressed his condolences, never deviating from his calm demeanor. Efforts to provoke a confession or a mistake from Gregory proved futile. The police could not detain him without more concrete evidence, and while he remained a person of interest, he adhered strictly to the terms of the restraining order and seemed to have moved on from Jessica. The investigation was at a standstill, with detectives grasping at straws to find any lead that might link Gregory to the crime. The police received a call from Deora Sanchez-Binder, who claimed to have crucial information about the Patrick Dira case. She was immediately invited to the station for an interview. During her statement, Deora revealed that shortly before the crime, she had discovered a strange notebook on her husband's desk in his office. Curiously flipping through it, she found a detailed plan of some stranger's house, accompanied by an odd sequence of actions. Although she initially dismissed it, the moment she saw a news report detailing the brutal murder of Patrick Dira, which included the floor plan of his house, she immediately recognized the sketches from her unfaithful husband's notebook. Realizing the gravity of her findings, Deora, who was on the brink of divorce, decided it was time to share this information with the authorities. This tip gave the police sufficient grounds to search the home of the suspected perpetrator. They discovered the mysterious notebook mentioned by Gregory's wife in his office, but the pages containing the house plan and other incriminating notes were missing. However, these were soon found in a trash can within the office. Gregory had torn them out, crumpled them up, and discarded them, presumably believing that no search of his home would occur due to a lack of direct evidence against him. The contents of these pages were chilling. They not only included the layout of the house, but also a detailed crime plan emphasizing precautions like turning off his phone, wearing gloves, and applying a special compound to his shoe soles to avoid leaving traces. The records revealed that Gregory had meticulously stalked Patrick, knew his routines, and was aware of the surveillance systems at Patrick's home. He also made plans to dispose of the murder weapon along with any incriminating clothing and shoes. His downfall was his assumption that these records would never be discovered, coupled with his wife's unexpected curiosity. Moreover, during the search, police found the fourth missing shell casing, which Gregory had intended to take as a trophy, on a table inside a cigar box. Forensic analysis confirmed it matched the casings from the crime scene. The trial began more than 3 years after the crime, in May 2021. During this time, Gregory had hired top-notch lawyers who were well prepared for the case. Jessica was a key witness, detailing her long relationship with Gregory, his marriage deceit, and the subsequent threats made against her and Patrick. She presented saved screenshots of their correspondence and phone records as evidence. However, Gregory's defense team attempted to shift the blame onto Jessica, alleging that her actions had provoked Gregory's behavior because she had moved on to a new relationship while still officially with him, which they claimed wounded his pride and ego. They also accused her of being mercantile, enjoying the lavish gifts from her wealthy suitor. They dismissed the documented murder plans found in Gregory's trash as mere fantasies of a jilted lover and argued that the search of Gregory's home was illegal, claiming the evidence found, including the shell casing, could have been planted. Despite these arguments, and even a moment during the trial where Gregory's now ex-wife, Deora Sanchez, retracted her initial statements and expressed doubts about Gregory's capability for murder, the jury found him guilty of first-degree murder after hours of deliberation. He was sentenced to life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. As the judge announced the verdict, Gregory's gaze was fixed on Jessica, his look so intense it left her feeling nauseated and almost caused her a panic attack. She sat next to Patrick's mother, sobbing and struggling to breathe. Despite numerous appeals from Gregory and his legal team, all were rejected. The high-profile nature of the case, portraying a wealthy businessman who brutally murdered a working-class man and tried to escape justice, resonated deeply with the public and received extensive media coverage. Jessica Devon says she now feels safe, continues to cherish Patrick's memory, wears the ring he gave her, and has maintained a close relationship with his parents, who have come to see her as their own daughter. Thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and click the bell icon to not miss new stories from around the world. See you soon, and take care.